There we go. Now it's working. What's going on, everyone? It is Thursday, May 20th, and welcome to another episode of the Volleyball Source podcast. My name is Everett Delorme. Today, I'm joined by Chris Elek, and we are going to be previewing the women's national team for the 2021 Volleyball Nations League that gets kicked off in just 5 days on the 25th. Chris, you spent some time with the women's national team at the Olympic qualifiers back in 2020 in Puerto Rico, so you know them intimately. You were their Data Volley specialist, so I'm very excited to have you on. Welcome. Of course, another member of the Volleyball Source Discord, so just going to give a quick shout out to the Discord right now. If you're not already a part of it, just look in the show notes, head over to our website, message us on Instagram, and come join us on the Discord because we've got a really great community of not only Canadian volleyball fans, but literally volleyball fans from around the world. Obviously I could talk about the Discord all day long, but we are here to talk about the women's national team. And what's a massively exciting time. I don't know if there's ever been a time that I was more excited for women's volleyball in Canada than right now. There's so much going on. Their first ever Volleyball Nations League, they qualified through the Challenger Cup all the way back in 2019. Of course, COVID-19 stopping the entire world. And now they're going to be competing with the world's best this year in VNL. Chris, how do you feel about that?
I'm excited. First of all, thank you for having me in that show, Everett. It's been a long time, and I'm also sharing that passion that you just said. I think that team will do great things. I think it's volleyball is back. International volleyball is back, and I'm just excited just for that. But on top of that, we have a Canadian national team that can do some stuff that is competing against some of the best teams, the Brazil and USA. And I'm craving for volleyball right now. I want to see those national team play. So I'm pumped. 5 days, you said? That's it. I'm going to spend the entire day in front of my TV, on my screen, on my computer, just watching that. That's what I'm going to do, I can tell you.
The VNL is going to be absolutely insane. You've got 30 days of competition, I think, 8 matches a day. It's going to go 3 days of women's matches, 3 days of men's matches, and we're just going to flip-flop every single day along the way. 16 teams per gender in the tournament, 32 in total. It's going to be absolutely massive. We've never seen anything like this for volleyball, and it's even bigger because of what's going to be happening this year. Not only do we have the Olympics going on, but we also have the Continental Championships going on after that in the fall. So the European Championships, the NORCECA Championships, Asian Championships, what have you. But it's going to be a massive summer for volleyball. And as we've both said, really, really excited about the Canadian national team that's coming up. So without kind of delaying anything more, we're going to jump right into looking at the roster here for the women's national team. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit more onto our super sophisticated roster slash depth chart that I have here on Google Drive. And 17 members on this roster, some new faces and some old faces. It's a bit of a mix. I'm just going to start here with the left side group. Alexa Gray, Andrea Mitrovic, Caroline Livingston, Hillary Howe, and Parker Austin are going to be making up the left sides. Down the middle, Jen Cross, Emily Maglio, Alicia Ogums, Lane Van Buskirk, Jasmine White. On the right side, Kira Van Ryk, who had a massive year in Poland, and of course, Shaina Joseph, who was playing in Japan. In the setter position, we have Bree King, who, if you haven't checked out my podcast, which is Bree King from a few months ago, definitely go do that. So insightful and really we're going to talk about her definitely in a little bit. Rounding out the setters, Danny Smith, Kim Robitaille, and then finally in the Libero position, 2 new athletes, Cassie Bouillon and Kennedy Snape will be joining the women's national team.
That's a great roster. I mean, I know some of them because I've been with them in Puerto Rico, but there are a lot of names there that I'm excited to see because I heard a lot of good things and I saw them train. I want to see how they're competing now. So this is a great 17 roster there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Now, it's a big roster. That's how it's going to be working for the VNL. When you're playing that many games in that many days, you're going to have to go in deep in the roster. So only 12 can be on the roster per game. But my understanding is that you can kind of flip them in and out regardless. Before we get too much into the roster, we
Mhm.
definitely need to talk about some of the retirements that we've seen from this team this year. Starting off, the first one, most noticeable one, uh, Kyla Ritchie hanging up her shoes after a very long career. First and foremost, just want to say thank you to Kyla for everything she's done for the team as one of the star players of the team for a long time, and as well as team captain. You're never going to be able to replace a hole like the one that she left, both on the court in that P2 position, but also off the court and the role that she played as a leader for this team.
She had a rough year though in Paris. She was in Paris with Rudy, yeah,
Yep.
and that was great to have them together. I was following them, but there was a bit of rough year for Paris. Not for Rudy, who actually won the League B, but it was hard. But she had a great game nevertheless. That was great to see her in Les Mariannes in Paris. So
Yep.
happy retirement, Kyle.
Yeah, playing for PSC, Paris Saint-Cloud, Les Mariannes, as you mentioned, and just an overall phenomenal career, one of the greats of Canadian women's volleyball. Sad to see her go, but if you've been following her on Instagram, her new wine venture, her and Rudy, I already told her that I would happily volunteer to go be a taste tester. I will, I'll take a bullet and taste some wine for them anytime.
Absolutely, I'll do the same. Yeah, it's good for them.
A few other notable retirements. There was a lot of them this year. Both of the liberos from the 2019 team, Jesse Niles and Kristen Monks, have both hung up their shoes alongside middle Alicia Perrin. We had the setter Megan Sear as well too. Brianna Beamish, another retiree, as well as Sarah Chase. One athlete who we won't be seeing on this roster, however, and hasn't retired, is Autumn Bailey, who's still rehabbing that injury that she suffered in the finals of the Challenger Cup against the Czech Republic, I think it was.
That was yeah, that was tough. I remember Autumn. You and me are from Ontario, so we remember Autumn at Defensa, and when she was playing, she was always a great athlete. So the other thing I will talk about it is a relation with Brie because they're a friend. I just want to see them play together. I absolutely want to see in an NHL match, have Brie set a goal to Autumn, who's going to just hammer the ball on the line. So I'm waiting for that. If it's not this year, it's going to be next.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I'm very encouraged by what I see on via Instagram and Autumn's rehab. Obviously, she was hoping to be playing by now. Unfortunately, that's not possible. But still, we're hoping for the best and praying for her because you know what, there was certain times when we saw Autumn and Alexa there on the left side, like that run that they had through the Norseca Challenger Cup, through the FIVB Challenger Cup, was the best volleyball I've ever seen the women's national team play by far. And I mean, I know from talking to a few of the athletes as well too, that's the way they felt as well. And you know what? I'm very excited to see what is in the future, and I really hope that Autumn Bailey can be a part of that. But if she's not, this VNL is really going to be a part of figuring out who's going to slot in to that P2 position and who's going to slot into the libero position. Because pretty much other than that, like the top 5 starters are pretty much set in stone in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. But before we switch, the other thing that we need to remember is Jesse Niles got a new venture now called Volley IQ. I don't know if you heard about it,
You're right,
right?
actually.
Which is analysis, and she's a great lady also. So if you got time, look at volleyiq.ca. I'm doing some commercial for her, but she's helping teams and coaches to actually do video review, which is extremely important. I mean, you're talking to a statman, but it's extremely important. So I think I join you there. Because we unfortunately we're losing Jesse and Kristen. I'm waiting now to see who is going to take the spot of the libero, how Shannon is going to play. She's going to play with one in passing and one in defense. How are they going to handle the serve? Because the international serve, as you know, is totally different from whatever NCAA or OUA or and so on. So I really want to see what's going to happen, especially in the first couple set matches. So you're right. This role of the libero there, I'm waiting to see. I'm excited to actually see how they're going to handle that.
Yeah, absolutely. Two options for the libero position, both of them coming from Canada. Cassie Bouillon spent some time. I think she graduated from the University of Manitoba in 2019. She played this past season in Spain. I know it doesn't have her as a professional team down here. That's my bad. I don't know how I missed it. But she played for CV Lugo in Spain. And then the other one coming from the University of Calgary is Kennedy Snape out of Kelowna, BC.
Yeah, and I think she trained last year in 2019. I saw some video, some scouting video where she was training, or 2020. She was training with the NEP. Um, so she knows the team, and I'm wondering if she didn't play with the national team senior in the USA. That
I'm
memory escaped me.
I'm not sure. I know Cassie Bouillon was on the Fishu team, the
Oh,
last
yeah.
the last one around, with a few of these girls, Hillary Howe included. But I'm not entirely sure if either of them played on that. I forget what that tournament was. It was another NORCECA tournament. It's hard to follow how many
I
NORCECA
know.
tournaments. It's a little bit crazy. That's for a talk for another time. But it's going to be. I think the libero battle is going to be one of the more interesting ones because it's such an important position on the court, and especially the holes that like Jessie was so analytical and so solid in serve receive. Kristen brought so much fire and so much energy. They really balanced each other well. And to me, it's going to be interesting to see Cassie and Kennedy kind of add their own touch to it. You know, it's going to be a massive not wake up call, but kind of eye opener. I'm sure for them. Cassie, of course, did play professionally, but still coming from U Sports to the national team, that's a big jump. And I'm interested to see how both of those players can hold the fort down, especially because like if we have passing on this team, things are going to get really dangerous. Like
Oh yeah.
if this team is going to be able to pass, the Canadian women's national team might have the most underrated offense at the VNL this year. And I'm not saying that biased or lightly. Like we have some serious firepower, like the likes that we've never really seen before across the board on this team. So passing the ball and making sure that the plays stay alive is going to be absolutely crucial for this team in this competition.
I like what you said about the intellect and the energy and a new touch. I think we all know that the women international game is a transition game, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's extremely important. I mean, there's a serve receive for sure. That's a second touch after the serve. But after that, it's all transition. And most of the time in the studies, the team who actually wins the transition game wins the game. Right. So, and the part of the intellectual part is critical because you need to understand every server, where do they serve, how to read them, every attacker, where are they going to attack when they're in system, out of system, and so that's the intellectual part. And what you said also is the energy part, is the role of the libero to actually bring that the energy. Say, look, I'm going to take care of that. So I love what you said, which is Jesse with the part was very much on the intellectual part, and Kristen on the energy, and they will bring new touch here. I love what you just said. I'm excited there to see the new touch that they're going to bring to that team and how they're going to show what a real libero is. You said also about the speed. Uh, I I'm 110% with you. If they pass what they call a double plus, they pass a perfect pass to Brie, man, I don't think we'll be able to see the ball fly because it'll be like right side quick, gap, go gap, gap go, and 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 after that we have the power. I mean, Alexa is just going to bury the ball, right? Emil is going to bury the ball. So you're totally right. If the opponent team does not serve and cause trouble in our reception, they're dead. They're going to get the ball right away on the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. Before we jump into to a few more of the starters, kind of want to jump into some of the new people as we go along. The setters pretty much what we were expecting. Danny Smith has been a long time member. Other than Jen Cross, I think she's the longest serving member of the national team. Bree, it's so funny to me because it seems like Bree's always been around, but she only started playing with the national team at the Olympic qualifiers back in 2019. So even though she's almost like a veteran on the squad, she's still kind of a newcomer. And then rounding out the setter group is Kim Robitaille, who's played the past 2 years at Quimper Volley in France and is actually going to be making that jump up to Saint Raphael into the Ligue A. So congratulations to her. But all in all, I think a very, very good setting group. I don't think we're only going to be seeing Brie. I definitely do think that Brie is going to be the starter, the S1, if you will, on the depth chart. I tried to ask Jen Cross that when I did a podcast with her, and she gave me the very political answer that we're going to be using all three, and I 100% agree. I think that the three of them bring a different aspect to the game, but at the same time, like I definitely think that this is Bree's team, and I'm really excited to see that develop across this VNL.
It's great what you just said. That it's there are a couple of points there, but 3 points. I want to show again that Kim actually did a great year in France in Quimper, and unfortunately they lost in the um, at the end. But she was there, and she was people loved her here. So it's great for her that she moves to Ligue A. That team, I don't know if you see, we can talk about it later, but that team in Saint Raphael is going to be huge because they're getting her. They're getting Lisa Arbos, who's actually in the national team in France. So it's good. Um, uh, Brie, I can only say good things about Brie. I mean, I discovered her in 2019, and as you said, she just started before. But I love her enthusiasm. I love her passion. She's learning so fast. She's executing so fast. She's one of the hardest competitor on the floor, and yet the nicest person out of the floor. It's just night and day. She reminds me of Jen Cross, right? It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? So she's like very nice, but on the floor, she's here to win. Right? And she can set those ball from position 1 to position 4 with a terrible spin. So and again, so I saw her in 2019, and I'm just waiting now to see how she improved because I know she improved. I know I was looking at AU Pro, and I see what she's done and how she improved from week 1 to week 2 to week 3, and I cannot wait to see the speed of what she's going to set there. It's going to be impossible to stop. And finally, I think you're right. All the three, each of those bring a different feeling and a different tempo to the team. And it's going to be great for Shannon to kind of say, okay, this is the setter that I need right now versus this one, or this is that type of setter that I need against that team. So very excited also to see three setters. The question for you though, three setters, usually team bring two. Do you know what we got three? It's a question. It's a trap question because I don't know if you know that, but
Well, I think for this VNL, most teams are bringing three. Like I think if you even look at the men's team, we're bringing Sanders, Blankenau, and Walsh, and I think all three of them are going to play. And I think
okay.
that's like I said, like 3 matches in 3 days is bonkers. It's bananas. Only
Yeah,
volleyball does this.
yeah,
I don't know why. We just hate our
I
athletes,
know.
obviously. We hate their knees, we hate their hips, we hate their shoulders, right? But then you have to you only get 3 days off, in which time you're going to be training, and then you have to do it again. Like you're
Yeah.
gonna need that depth to have all three. And like you said, I think that each one of them brings a different a different aspect to the game. Danny Smith has been with this team for so long. She's definitely someone who's very comfortable in that role. That if things are going well or going poorly, we can kind of throw Danny Smith in there and she'll right the ship. And I think that she's just a calming factor no matter what on this roster. But I'm very excited to see kind of what happens. Kim, we haven't really seen her with the national team much, but she has been in the gym for a number of years now and has had, like you said, 2 very successful years at Quimper Volley in France. So very excited to see her make that transition with the national team. Only one out of Sherbrooke for a long time. I can't remember the last time we had an athlete from the Université de Sherbrooke, Les Variards. So always good to see a little bit of new blood in the national team.
Yeah. The other thing is I was talking to Shannon and Joe Trinzi there in 2019, and I was asking them how they were doing their team on the floor. And it's very interesting because at the international level, the connection between the setter and the outside hitter, or the setter and the middle, is extremely important. So I got a feeling, without actually putting words in Shannon mouth, that when Danny is going to play, she's going to play with certain people, and when Bray is going to play, she's also going to play with certain people, because that's what makes
Mm.
the strategy win, right? It's very important to set and have the connection setter, middle setter, outside hitter to be as crisp as possible. So I got a feeling that she may rotate certain 6 or 5 or whatever, but I'm thinking Danny will play with certain, Kim with others, and Brie with others. I may be wrong, and I'll just admit that. But that's my feeling right now.
I mean, unfortunately, we haven't been able to get Shannon Windsor for an interview or a podcast just yet. Hopefully, that will come as we progress a little bit, just to pick her brain about what we could be seeing with this national team. As we've both said, we're very excited, but there's so many different options that we could see here, and I really think that utilizing all of them is important. I think right now is a good time to say and just mention with the VNL that there's no relegation, right? So normally with the VNL, the last place team is kicked out for the team that comes up through the Challenger Cup. So I forget who got kicked out. I think it was actually Puerto Rico who got kicked out. No, it wouldn't have been because they were. I can't really remember who got kicked out, but and this year there's no Challenger Cup, so there's no relegation, which means that this one's kind of a freebie in a lot of ways, right? Obviously, we don't want them to lose every single match, but if they end up losing every single match and finishing last place, which, for the record, we're going to talk about that a little bit, I don't think that's the case. I really think that this is going to be a strong showing by the Canadian women's national team. But if that is the case, then we have another opportunity in 2022 to not get relegated, which is absolutely massive for a roster like this where we're still kind of figuring things out.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think, and again, we'll talk about it. I don't think they'll have the big L, but the L this year is going to be for learning, right? They're going to face Brazil. They're going to face USA. We'll talk about this. This is all learning experience. This is all free, and play free and enjoy. This is another thing that I've been talking to one of the assistant coach for Vakiv Bank. He's talking about the volleyball point, Cesar. And that's what they're doing here. They're gaining volleyball point. They're playing against the best team in the world. They're going to see how they can handle the best serve in the world, and they're going to judge and figure out where they can work for the next year. It's a great opportunity for the staff. It's a great opportunity for the athlete to say, let's go, let's show them what we are, and let's learn a couple of things about ourselves so we can work next year to get even better in 2022 and come to the next VNL and then do something.
Yeah, absolutely. I said it before we started that this really feels to me very similar like the men's team in 2011, going through the World League qualifying back then. And I remember talking to people on the team, talking to Glenn, and just being like, you know what? We don't play enough international matches. We don't play enough internationally, so we're not at that level. And that's very much been the case for this women's national team. We've seen them in the Grand Prix a few times, but usually in Group 3 or Group 2. And then, events like the Pan Am Cup and Norsika Championships, there's just not that many good games. No offense to Trinidad and Tobago, no offense to Mexico even, but these just aren't quality games where we're going to be learning and it be getting pushed. So now I think that it's going to be such a good opportunity to play literally all of the best teams in the world and have a gimme with it.
Oh yeah, and so we still play a couple of the team. I mean, we play Brazil, we play Dominican Republic because they're in South America, and but I'm looking at a team like Poland. When is the last time we played Poland, right? When is the last time we played South Korea or even China? We're going to play China, right? These are things that you can't buy, right? Just with these are the team that we never played before, and we're going to play them once this year, and again next year, and now we're going to see how we improve. That's very interesting.
We did play Korea at the Olympic qualifying tournament in Russia last year. That was our first game. But a little bit different now as they've kicked those two twins off the team for bullying that happened 15 years ago. We won't really get back into that. Getting back to the roster, though, no one knew on the right side. I definitely think like the right side pair that we have here with Kira Van Rijk and Shaina Joseph, you've got two players who are very different. One is very quiet, but has an absolute hammer. Put up some of the best numbers we've ever seen this year playing for Rzeszów in Poland. She set the Canadian record for most points in the Champions League game with 36 in her last game against Skandici. And you know what? Shaina Joseph also had a massive year playing for the Agio Medics in the Japanese V League. She started every single match and was one of their go-to hitters. So realistically, whichever athlete we go on the right side, whether it's Kira, whether it's Shaina, and it's going to be both, I think is a plus for us.
Oh yeah, and you're totally right. And remember that the women's game is changing, right? Before we had the right side on for the men team. Now we have right side for the women's team. We know the names: Egonu, Boskovic, Vargas. They all play right side, right? We have with Kiera and China, we have like two of the best right side in the world right now. And they only Kiera is what 22. That's what you said.
22, yeah.
This is crazy. She's only 22. She can only get better in the next couple of years. And Shai is just massive also on the right side. I mean, she's got a hammer as a fist. So um, I'm the problem with me is I'm not the coach because I don't know who to choose. It's a good thing that they play one day after another, so we can probably alternate. But I would love to have a team with 6 people and two right side because they're just phenomenal in their position right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. But you're right. It's great to have such a massive right side right now.
Yeah. In the middle, we have a few new faces as well. Of course, Jen Cross, Emily Maglio, they're going to hold down the middle. Those are definitely the M1 and M2. I would almost put Maglio as the M1 right now. Even though Cross is going to be the captain, she was named the captain upon the retirement of Kyla Ritchie. But Emily Maglio really did some special things this year at Nullifer in Turkey. But then all throughout this middle lineup, Alicia Ogums played the second half of the year for Firenze in Italy. Lane Van Buskirk has had an amazing first year playing for Chamalières in France Pro A. And then Jasmine White, she had a bit of a rough year playing for Vilsbiburg, was injured most of the year, didn't come on until later, but she's been a part of the roster before, so I'm interested to see how she kind of fits into the lineup. I definitely think that we have our first two starters, but any of the three of them, any of those other three athletes, I definitely we're going to see put into the lineup at some point.
Yeah, and you're right. And we probably need five middle. I mean, I was a middle in 1940s when I played volleyball. I'm kidding, that was not 40s, but middle. You jump,
you're not that old, dude. Come on.
but like a middle is jumping all the time. So 3 day in, 3 day out, we'll have to do the rotation. So it's great to have those five middle. I can't wait to see Len and Jazz again play because I think they're also going to get those volleyball point and improve. Jess is just rock. I mean, you and I, we know her. As I said, like Brie, she's like so nice off the court, but as soon as she's on the court, and the example that I got is the first time I arrived at the training in Puerto Rico, and you meet all these athletes, and then you start the first hour of training, and Jen just snapped, and she became this person screaming at the net as if it was the gold medal match, and I said, that's what an international athlete should do, right? So I always remember Jen for that. Emily is, in my opinion, the most underrated middle right now because she's just phenomenal as a middle blocker, right? In middle blocker, you got blocker. And I'm going to urge the people listening or watching the show right now, the first VNL game that Emily is going to play, I want you to see how fast she goes to the pin, how fast she moves and how she can read. And then now you imagine and you multiply by 10 because in real life and in real, it's 10 times faster what she's doing. So, and I can't wait to see those middle just grow and become even better. So yeah, very excited for the middle too.
You know, we talked about it a little bit before, but I think that Canada might have maybe the most underrated middles in the world. You know, and I really think that, as we mentioned before, if we can pass the ball and we can establish the middles early, it's just going to open everything up for our outsides to be able to swing away. And I really think that a lot of our strength comes from how strong we are down the middle, and really goes through like 1 through 5. I'm really excited to see how Lane Van Buskirk fits in there. She had a really good second half of the year with Chamalières, and the same thing. Both Jasmine White and Alicia Ogums are very physical athletes, and I think that, you know what, whoever we plug and play there they're going to be able to get the job done.
Oh, I'm with you there. I'm just waiting, like eating my popcorn and waiting for the perfect pass, and have them run this what they call the go LC, right? So the go is a fast ball in position 4. The L is the step because Emily and Jen can do that, and then you can see the C ball coming from Kara Chai just hammering the ball in the middle. I'm waiting. I know it will happen. This is one of the most spectacular play you can see at the national level, and they are showing and demonstrating how it's going to be done. So absolutely right. A perfect pass. The middle on the other side will have to actually stay proper and follow our middle because we have 3 or 4 attackers that can just attack the ball right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, moving on to the left side. The left side is where there is going to be a lot of figuring things out. Sure, we do have Alexa Gray, and Alexa Gray is coming off maybe one of the greatest professional seasons for the women's or Canadian women of all time. Was a top 5 scorer in the Italian league. Was a multiple time MVP in the Champions League, most notably the MVP when they beat Vakufbank in the semifinals. You know what? In that third set where they turned things around, and I know I've talked about this before, but she was served every single ball, went 7 for 7 in attacking. And you know what? She's one of those athletes she's a little bit quieter, and she's not going to be that go rah rah person to get the team going, but she's so dependable. She's as solid as a rock. I didn't have as much respect for her serve receive as I did before as I did now. Watching her pass the ball for Busto Arcizio this year, all year long when they targeted, because at a certain point, every other team in the league and in the world knew that Busto was Alexa Gray on the left side and Camilla Mingardi on the right side. And you couldn't take Mingardi out of the serve receive because she was on the right. So every single ball went to Alexa. And not only did she do well, but she thrived in that position. So I'm really excited to see what she brings back to the national team. However, once we get past Alexa, there is a lot of question marks there. Andrea Mitrovic, she's in the second position there right now because she's the only one who's been a part of this team before. She was a part back in 2019, but we didn't really see her that much. She finished up at ASU this past year and then played the second half of the season in Romania. Caroline Livingston, a former Queen's Gale, she played for Mougins this year in Liga. Lot of French French league players here on this roster. Hilary Howe, who was supposed to be playing at Trinity Western this year, joining forces back with Bree King. She may be the one that I'm most excited to see, and from one of the rumblings I've been hearing out of training camp so far, that she's really been impressing. But you know that her and Bree just have that connection after playing together for so long at Trinity Western, and they're such good friends. And then rounding out that fifth position is Parker Austin, who just finished her year at North Carolina and her career at North Carolina. She did put up a few good numbers, but it's really tough to see how different teams did, how certain players did in the NCAA, because some leagues played and other leagues didn't, and some had a lot and some didn't. She did score. I think her season total, high total was 23 points this year in a 5-set win for Parker Austin. So another athlete to watch out for. She's coming out of Edmonton, but just another athlete that can kind of fit in there. And realistically, I'm not entirely sure who's going to fit into that P2 position between those four. And I really think that there's definitely going to be certain points. Like, there's no way that Alexa can play all 15 matches over the course of this tournament. So there's going to be times when Alexa's not in, and it's going to be up to two of those girls to kind of figure it out and really hold things down on the left side.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I remember Alex. First of all, she had a fantastic CEV tournament this year. She impresses me because she knows she's served on, and as you say, she's quiet. I would say she's also a perfectionist, right? Because I remember when I was there, she spent like half an hour working with a coach to work on her wrist when she was serving, because she was not really happy about it. So she's somebody who is really quiet and really perfectionist. And yeah, she's so stable now in serve reception. That's the way it is, right? A lot of athletes just say, well, I can hit the ball, I'm going to be a P1. I'm like, no, you have to actually pass, because if you can't pass, you can't attack. And because you're a coach and I'm a coach, we always tell that to our athletes. So that's the epiphany. That's the representation of what an outside hitter is. And then after that, you're right. There is some kind of discussion on who can be the P2, and we're going to miss Autumn for sure. But it's true. I'm looking at Andrea on one side, and I played against her when she was at 18U at E381 in Ontario. She always impressed me with her jump. She was attacking back row, front row. I don't know what she touches. Do you know what she touches?
I don't know off the top of my head, no. But I know she's a banger.
Oh, and she's athletic. I mean, I want people to see that. She's so athletic and so great. And so I'm waiting to see what she can do. And Hillary, so I was lucky to actually see Hillary play. She's also a very quiet lady, very nice. And I was really impressed. I was really impressed how she played in Puerto Rico. She came in the middle. She can also bang the ball. I'm also even more impressed on how she improved in the past year, and how she became this super athletic outside hitter. So I'm thinking, yeah, it's going to be there. And then Caroline and it's a family of Livingstone. I mean, they all play perfectly. And Parker, I'm just waiting to see what she is because she's just probably the diamond in the rough. So all that on the outside, you're right. We're going to make them rotate. We're going to make them change. They're going to be, facing the setter. They're going to be facing a triple block on outside out of system ball. And I want to see how they react. I want to see how they behave. I want to see how mentally they're strong, and I want them to gain those volleyball points because there is nothing better than having a triple block in front of you and you have to score, right? So it's a great thing. You're right. We're at a great time right now with the Kenyan team.
It's so funny. Claire Hanna, who is a
Yep.
former libero for the women's national team. Now she is announcer. She actually is going to be one of the announcers for the stream in the FIVB Bottle in Rimini, and she's also going to be doing the play-by-play commentary for beach volleyball for CBC Sports during the Olympics. So big shout out to Claire Hanna. But we've been chatting quite a bit since she's been getting back into the volleyball world, and she was like, with all these retirements, are we going to be able to compete? And I was like, not only were we going to be able to compete, but I think that this might be the best we've ever seen. Now, if we had been able to keep, no offense to our liberos, but if we had been able to keep Kristen or Jesse, just one of them, and then if either Autumn or Kyla were here just to solidify that P2 position, it would have been great. It would have been a perfect scenario. But other than that, this team is young. This team is powerful, and it really is in a lot of ways. It's a new era and a new a rebirth for this women's national team, and I'm so excited. We've talked about it, we've alluded to it a few times, but this is hands down the best year professionally for women's volleyball, Canadian women's volleyball. Right, the things that we talked about how successful a lot of these athletes were, but you know what? In years past, we haven't had this many athletes playing overseas in good leagues, but also leading top teams in the league. Kira Van Rijk was the top scorer on arguably on one of the best teams in Poland. They finished second, right? So the same thing. Like we went off on how Alexa Gray led a team all the way to the semifinals of the Champions League. This type of stuff doesn't happen for the Canadian women all that often, and so to have so many athletes just have such quality seasons, like Jen Cross won the CEV Cup with a System 9 Yesel, right? Like we go into Bree King. Bree King was an absolutely showstopper, finished third overall in the Athletes Unlimited Pro League in the United States, and like touching on her for a little, we're going to go back to her because I think that she's going to be a massive part. If you go back to my podcast and then listen to it with her, she joined the women's national team for the first time in 2019. And before joining the team, her thought was, I'm going to go to Trinity, I'm going to finish out my year, and then I'm probably going to be done volleyball. But she joined that team and has kind of taken the reins, and now I kind of think Bree King has the ability to be like a top 10 setter in the world.
Yeah, you're right. And before we talk to Bree, I want to give kudos to the retiree. Oh, I don't want to call them retiree because they're still young, but it's very interesting what you say. It's a new, but at the same time, I think it's kudos to these retiree for bringing this new generation to be even better. Usually, when you got retiree, you got to dip, right? You got to dip because the team is trying to find itself, and for 6 months or a year, it doesn't know. And I think the people who actually, the athlete who actually left, actually made the team even better by mentoring those new athletes, right? Could it be Bray? Could it be Kira? Could it be Alexa? And so it's a new one, but I'm thinking it's really an improvement versus the last generation that we got. And every year they're getting better and better and better. Your description of Bray is right on. I think the person on the team that we don't talk about is the setter, because she's the quarterback. She's running by her energy. She's the same way the libero is actually running the defense. We all say that the setter is running the offense. And I see there in Bree and the way she improved over the year, somebody that is definitely going to become one of the best, if not the best setter that we have ever seen internationally.
Wow.
Yes, I said it. I know I said it. I said it, and I'm pretty sure it's going to happen.
You know what? I also agree with you, and that's nothing against what we've seen from setters in the past, but she just brings in such a confidence and such a desire to win, and at the same time is such a great teammate and a great person. Like, her energy is phenomenal and really really impresses me. And you know what I'm really excited to see is her come in and step in and be like, this is my team, especially because she just spent all of that time in the Athletes Unlimited, you know, circle. And she was amongst some of the best athletes in the world. Like, she was there with Bethania de la Cruz, she was there with Sheila, she was there with Jordan Larson, and all of them raved about her. They all wanted to play with her. And then even the biggest kicker is that, going into that last week was the kind of was the first time that she was able to be a captain, and I was really interested to see how is she going to be able to pick her team and still be successful. But she picked a great team and was a great leader for that team, and ended up moving from 4th into 3rd and finishing in the top 3, which was absolutely phenomenal. So, I think that the setting position for the women's national team for so long has been a question mark, because no one has stepped up and been like, hey, this is my team. And I really think that's what we're going to see Bree King do, and step up and be like, you know what? Yeah, we have this fantastic roster, but when push comes to shove, this is my team, and I'm going to lead this team, and I'm excited to do it. And I'm really excited to see what kind of environment that fosters for the rest of the team.
Oh yeah, that's going to happen. You already see that happening. And Brie not only had a fantastic IQ because she knows what to run when, her mental and her faith and her belief, that you add that into your podcast. I urge people to listen to Brie, is second to none, right? Brie is just full of confidence, and she knows, and she's full of love, and it's great to see. The other thing that surprised me, that we'll talk about Hillary and some others, is her ability to learn and execute when we tell her to learn, right? I spent an hour, and I was lucky enough to spend an hour and a half with her on a Zoom call, and she was explaining to me point by point how is she going to do the approach and the importance of the right step versus the left step, and she's just practicing that hours after hours after hours. I saw some video of her during the COVID where she actually went into the gym just by herself and practiced her approach and practiced her set. So the way you saw Brie a couple years ago is not the way Brie is now. And I'm just waiting to see how she improved. But then again, I'm so excited. I think it's the word that we're going to use in that podcast, Everett, is I'm so excited to see what she's going to become in the next couple of years, because she can only get better. Like me, that one of the best setters don't get at their top when they're 22, 23. They get that when they're 36, 32, 36. She's got another 10, 15 years in front of her to become the setter. So yeah, and working with the other setter, working with the feedback of Kim and the feedback of Danny, and them exchanging is going to make Danny even better and Kim even better. And that challenge is the best thing that can happen for the national team.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. As we've said, looking at this roster, I've never been more excited for Canadian women's volleyball than it. And like I said the same thing back in 2019, absolutely. But just watching, Bree and Kira and Alexa, and how they've progressed over the past, few years, I really think that they really benefited from having the year off last year. And I know that's weird to say, because you don't want to not be playing, but it just allowed them to maybe heal their body a little bit, heal their soul a little bit, really, look at, do I want to be doing this? And the fact that all of them are coming back, I'm really excited to see how it all comes together. Now, one of the new aspects of this new rebirth, if you will, of the women's national team, we have to talk about the coaching staff. Now, unfortunately, due to COVID and travel and all of that, Tom Black would not be returning, neither would the rest of the squad, Joe Trinzi, Ben Josephson, all of that stuff. So it is a brand new coaching staff for the women's national team. Now, for the first time since 1981, Canada will have a female head coach for the women's national team, and for the first time since 2005, it will be a Canadian-born head coach. So that is absolutely massive. Mrs. Shannon Windsor is going to be stepping in as the head coach. She has she's been with the Canadian national team now for a number of years. mostly in the NEP circle. She's really been working on the NEP side of things. Worked with the B team. I know she worked with the B team at a tournament in Colorado that you alluded to back in 2019, and you know, talking to Shauna Joseph and Bree, they seemed very excited that she was going to be stepping in with her. So we're going to have to see how she does here with the women's national team. Also joining her on her staff, assistant coach Lauren Bertolacci. She is another Aussie, I believe, who is was the head coach of Videos NUC Volleyball in the Swiss League, and they actually won the Swiss League. So we've got a proven champion in Lauren Bertolacci. Vincenzo Maglia is coming back to the national team. He was back in when Marcello Abbondanza was the head coach. Now, he is originally Italian, but has been in Canada for 5-6 years now, maybe even more, and has been working out of the University of Toronto. Such a great another great volleyball mind there who knows the Canadian system very, very well. And then rounding out that squad is going to be the scout data person, Pablo Sanchez, who was working with Lauren Bertolacci this past year in Switzerland, and pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I'm pretty sure he worked previously with Shannon Windsor and Bertolacci in Australia as well.
Yeah, again, it's perfect because it's another new beginning for the staff also, and the same way as for the athlete, I see that as a new beginning where they learn from the previous, they learn from Tom, they learn from Joe Trinzi, they learn from Ben. Shannon is just a great human, right? She's a mother. She's mother of 3 kids, right? And she's one of the top coaches in the world. She's the strongest woman that I think that I've seen. I'm lucky to actually meet her. I see her as a, we say the iron fist in the velvet glove. That's the expression, right?
I think so. Yeah.
That's the way I see Shannon. She knows her stuff. She was the offensive coordinator, but she really knows volleyball by heart. She knows how to bring people to bring the best. She knows how to be gentle and sometimes to be hard on the athlete. So I'm also very excited to see what she can do because she's definitely, in my opinion, the right coach for that team right there. And I think the athlete loves her. She loves the athlete, but she's going to bring the best of them. Right? And in our knowledge that she got through the years, through her playing, through her struggling, and how to bring those athletes to get the best out of them. So that's another great things for that team, in my opinion. Yes.
I definitely, one thing I think I'm excited about is her energy and her passion and the amount of drive that she's going to bring to this team. Like I think that she's going to bring some infectious positive energy, and I really think that's what's needed right now. Because as we said, there's no relegation. There's no pressure on this team to get everything right now. Right? There's no pressure for everything to be like, hey, we need to be perfect right now because we need to qualify for this or qualify for that. No, we don't. Right? We can go out there and learn. And I really hope and I really think that she is going to kind of foster an infectious learning environment because that is ultimately going to be the best thing for this roster.
Yeah, and it's great because she found a new pen with multiple colors. She just puts it out on her Instagram, so she's ready to actually take notes as a coach. That's perfect. She's got a little pen with the different colors that I'm like, that's what a coach tool is about. So no, I'm great. She's a great person. Yeah. Love Shannon.
Yeah. All in all, I think it's going to be a really good staff, and you know what, I'm happy that if Tom wasn't there, that they just redid the whole new staff. Not that we're having holdovers and stuff like that. And just if it's going to be Shannon Windsor's team, let her bring in who she's comfortable with. Let her bring in the staff that she wants, and let's see how it works, right? But as we said, we have really 2 years here. Like all in all, like this team isn't looking at VNL. This team is looking at Paris 2024. That's really what we're looking at here and what we're preparing for. And you know what? Like I'm excited. As I know we've said that before and many times in this podcast, but I am absolutely really excited about what is potentially to come for this team.
Yeah, we need to find another word for excited. I'm just searching for some synonyms right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, let's pull out the thesaurus, but
Yeah, that's what we need to find. That stuff. It's also very interesting because usually when staff changes, the whole strategy and the whole vision change. But I think it's a continuous there, right? She's been with them for a year, year and a half. She knows them, and as I said, she learned from others. This is a new staff, but the vision and the strategy will stay the same. They're on the right track technically. They're on the right track tactically and strategically. They will continue. They have the right athletes to execute what she wants to be done. It's a great thing for her. And as you said, she can try, test, push people during that VNL. And my feeling is they're going to surprise more than one team. I don't know what is your feeling, but I think they're not just here to beat Canada and learn. Some team will actually experience what Canada
Absolutely. I
is
think
about.
I think right now is a good time to open up the schedule. And here,
Yes.
so we're gonna go over the schedule. If you want to check this out, I've got this up on our website. Obviously, we've got the men's and women's schedule right beside each other, but we're just gonna focus on the women right now. No offense to the men, but I've already talked about them, and it's the women's time to shine. Now we discussed it. They have to go through the absolute gauntlet first in the first few games. Start off with Brazil. Then you've got USA, and then you've got the Dominican Republic, which, as we talked about beforehand, is kind of apropos because normally we would start off the national team season with the Pan Am Cup. All three of those teams would be there, so it's just kind of like taking out all of the lesser teams of the Pan Am Cup. I was about to use a not as nice word, but the lesser teams from the Pan Am Cup, and just bringing in the quality. But I mean, let's be honest, that is very much the gauntlet of women's national teams to be starting off with.
Yeah, and what is also interesting, I was looking at some of the data. Brazil and USA won the VNL since 2004, except 1 year when the Netherlands got. So Brazil and USA, if I have a vote, that's one of them is going to win. So starting with against those teams that they know, but are here to win and compete because they're going to the Olympic Games and they want to perform. It's a rough start,
Yeah, absolutely.
but I'm pretty sure we can do something because we'll play free and we have a great team. The third one, the Dominican Republic, I can't wait to see that revenge game. I cannot wait to see what is happening. And I know the teams are the same for the Dominican Republic, but for me, it's going to be totally different than January 2020 with the TQ. It's going to be night and day, and I'm telling you, I think Canada lost 3-0, 3-1 the last game in January,
Three
right?
one in January, yeah, in
Yeah,
2020.
I you know what? I'm betting. I'm betting whatever you want, and you know what? I don't bet, but I'm betting that they will win. I'm betting they will win and they will beat the Dominican Republic.
You know what? I wouldn't. And you know what? I agree that, and especially because Bree and Betty De La Cruz had such a good relationship at Athletes Unlimited. I think Bree is going to step on that court and she's going to be like, I want to beat Betty. You know what? And this we've beat Dominican Republic before in the past, and that's it's happened. So I think that with everything coming up, definitely on the schedule, that's one of my ones that I think we can win, mostly because of the familiarity and kind of what's on the line there. Just
Oh
real
yeah.
quick, I've also got the women's rankings off. They're starting off with the number 3 team in the world, then going against the number 2 team in the world. Dominican Republic is going to be at number 9. Switching back to the schedule here, as we said, it's 3 days on, 3 days off. And the next 3 teams that they have is Turkey,
Oh,
which is an absolute powerhouse coming in at number 5 in the world, and then you've got China coming in at number 1. So of the top teams, and Italy coming in at number 4, they're not bringing their full roster to VNL. So that's not the same Italian team. It's not going to be there's not going to be any Agonu there in the VNL for Italy. So realistically, the first 4 games are against the top 4 teams in the world.
yeah, and Turkey is. I mean, Giovanni Guidetti is probably going to analyze Canada inside out between the for 3 days. So there, it's going to be also a very interesting game because Turkey is a very good team with some young player that I noticed in the Turkish league. I don't know if you saw that. It's that country is just bringing it's becoming the country in Europe with Italy were just the best team in the world. But you saw that in the final in the championship, right? That
Yeah.
was that was Turkey versus Italy, right? So yeah, that's another game that is going to be interesting. And China is a force, is a force. So yeah, very. very animated, elevated, exhilarating game. Because I cannot say excited, but very,
You
very
know
good.
what? I actually think that this is a good thing for the women's national team because you guess what? You have to run the gauntlet of the top 5 teams, five of the top teams in the world right off the bat, and then it's only downhill from there, right? Of course, Germany's so good, Poland, Japan, Netherlands, Serbia, Russia, like all quality teams, rounding things out against, sorry, Korea, Italy, Thailand, and Belgium. But I think that there's so much learning going to be happening in those first few games. And as we've said, like the results really don't matter. We don't need to jump out and steal one or two. But I think that we are going to be able to to run with those teams, but also learn from those teams quite a bit to be able to apply those lessons not only later on in the competition, but later on in the summer as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, these are great games. Anyway, every game is great because Belgium is also a great team. Thailand and South Korea play different way, a different volleyball. Japan is also very different. So they all have very different way of playing. So the athletes are going to learn. And you're right, starting with those Brazil, USA, Dominican Republic, Turkey, and China. This is insane. This is the best thing, but this is insane. Insane.
Yeah, I agree. It's gonna be a gauntlet. Like that's the real. It's gonna be a gauntlet. And once they're past that, but even if they come out of there 0-5, now I'm agreeing with you. I think we can beat the Dominican Republic, so maybe we come out 1-4. I still think that this team is in a really, really good spot because of all of those lessons that are going to be learned. My biggest wish throughout this time is that we just don't get blown out. I don't want to get blown out. Just three quick sets. I want us to go there, apply some pressure, and learn some things. And you know what? As we've talked about it with this roster, I really think we can. Like we have world class talent and in abundance on this roster. And let's be honest, how many teams do you think any of these teams are really getting up to play Canada? Hell no, right? Especially these first 5 teams that are all going to be competing at the Olympics. They're looking to Tokyo, right? They're getting ready. They're not going to be getting up to play Team Canada as much as they are going to be playing each other. So I think that's a perfect opportunity for Canada to steal some sets, steal some wins, and learn some lessons. As we've said before, the big L for this tournament has to be learning.
I agree with you when you said it should not be a three quick set. I think I totally agree with you. I think it's learning here and it's facing. There are some teams that we know. We know Brazil, we know USA, we know Dominican Republic, and we can beat them. We can be very close to them, right? We can be 3-1, 3-2, and show them because the goal, as you said, is for us, for that team to gain volleyball point, to become better. We have the VNL in 2021. We have the VNL in 2022. So we'll see the same team in 2022 and we'll see it improve. But most importantly, we have 2024. So that's 4 years here where it's just learning. And if we lose 3-1 right now against Brazil, I don't care. As long as we won 3-2 in the final in Paris 2024 and we get the gold game, we get the gold medal, right?
Yeah,
That would be
absolutely.
good.
That would be great. I mean, we're a little far away right now. We're gonna head over to the standings. Canada is currently ranked 18th, which is by my assumption and just looking at it that it is the lowest ranked team in the competition. Thailand comes in at 15, Belgium at 14, Poland, Germany. What's the only team? I guess everyone: China, USA, Brazil, Italy, Turkey, Serbia, Japan, Russia, Dominican Republic, Korea, Netherlands, Germany, Poland, Belgium, Thailand. Yeah, absolutely. So Puerto Rico and Argentina are just ahead of us, which I don't know how, really. Um, I
It's weird. The FIVB count the points 5 or 6 years ago, and the point only disappear after a while. So some of the team that were really good 3 or 4 years ago got all these points ahead, and the team that are coming back up don't have the points. It's the same for the men. That's the way they work with the FIVB. So
fair enough, fair enough. But realistically, I can see us maybe not being a top 10 team yet, but pushing into those top teams, like pushing into that 15 range amongst the Netherlands, Germany, Poland, and Belgium. That's really where I expect us to kind of push into at the end of this summer.
I'm with you. I think I would be extremely pleased if they're ranked between 10 and 15, right? In that tournament there, because I think that's where they stand right now. Honestly, on the paper, that's where they stand. And if they glue the way I see them glue and work the way I see them train and win 10 to 15, I'm with you. I'm with you. That's my prediction.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very interested to see how we do teams against teams. Like, I think there's going to be certain teams that are just going to be able to overpower us, but I'm really interested to see how we do against teams like Japan. Oh, and Korea. I know we didn't have a great showing against Korea at the Olympic qualifying tournament back in 2019. I'm pretty sure that was the game that we saw Marie-Alexis Bélanger get injured right off the bat, and everything just kind of got messed up. But I think that there's games against like Japan and Korea that are very winnable, just because this team is it's not the same team, but in the same way, I think it is such a it is the same team mostly, but I think in a lot of ways it's a completely different team, mainly coming down to the confidence factor that some of these athletes have gathered over the past few years. And I think that so many athletes coming back from really, really strong professional seasons, and they're coming back to the national team, I think that's just going to be able to bolster and make them believe that, like, hey, like Kira can go, I can play with the best of the best, right? Alexa goes, I can play with the best of the best. Same thing. I mean, trust me, Jen Cross knew when she was 11 years old that she could play with the best and the best, and she would have told you herself back then as well too. But she still believes that. Same thing with Maglio. So I really think that I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but I really think that it's going to be a very surprising run for the women's national team. Kind of, I think, kind of along the same lines that we saw with the men's national team at the beginning of the last decade. The way we saw similarly to how Dominican Republic really jumped up at the beginning, throughout the 2010. Same thing with Iran on the men's side. I really think that the Canadian women's national team is going to be going through that process. And what's even more exciting is how much skill I know is coming through the women's next gen team and the junior team as well. And that a few years ago was the first time in a while. It's crazy that it was the first time that the Canadian national team ran a junior program, but we're already seeing the fruits of that labor come through. And I couldn't be more excited for the spot that women's indoor volleyball is in right now in Canada.
Yeah, I'd like to bring those 26 or 30 athletes there so they can learn volleyball, because I can see already what's coming behind, and they're pushing, and they're as good as what we see at the senior team. So that next generation is also very, and again, we'll use the word exciting, because what is happening right now is great for Volleyball Canada, but we're going to see the fruit this year, next year, maybe this year. I'm pretty sure this year. You know what? Between you and me, and playing against Korea and Japan is great, because these are teams that are ball control, probably not overpowered like others. But at the same time, I think that it's going to show a different face of the Canadian team, because they will have to actually control the game. They will have to run the game. They are the one who are going to be in power there. And I think they're not going to be the underdog versus Korea or Japan. They need to actually win instead of beating up or being only against USA and Brazil. They will need to just run the game. Korea and Japan have fantastic defense, so they will just need to put the ball on the floor. It's a different game, and that's where I want to see the mental and the resilience of our team there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the mental game is maybe one of the areas that has lacked a little bit in the past years. And I think we can look at specifically about the difference, what happened to the team after Autumn Bailey went down, and they were just absolutely running a train wreck through the Czech Republic in that final match. In that third set, Autumn goes down with just a horrific knee injury, and you know what? It's still pretty amazing that they were able to pick everything up and win, right? And win that match, and qualify for the VNL. But that injury really sent ripples throughout the team that was affecting them all the way to the qualifier in January, and that happened in June, right? And so we've really seen how the mental the mental toughness of this team was really lacking. However, I do think that this team is going to be a lot stronger mentally because of how deep they are, you know. And yes, there's a big drop off as Alexa in the P2, but I really believe that all four of those athletes believe that they can be the P2. And that's something that I love because I think that it's going to give them a better option, and it's just going to give the team a little bit more confidence than they've had in the past. And that's really what I want to see. Like, I think that this could be a confidence building VNL for the Canadian national team.
Yeah, I like the word confidence. I think you're totally right there. And you talk about mental, and if you look at the past year, they grew mentally. I mean, Alexa grew mentally because she lost, unfortunately, in a CV, but she probably learned mentally what's happening. Jen won, and she learned mentally. Kira lost in semifinal, and she learned also mentally, right? She learned.
I think Kira's like if you look at how she started the Champions League compared to how she finished it, night and day. Like, realistically, the reason why Rezhov didn't do well in Champions League is because Kira Van Rijk didn't really show up for the first couple of matches. Like, if you look at like when they played Scandici and Busto and was it Schwerin? Yeah, it was the German team Schwerin. I can't pronounce it. Some German come in and help me out and say it's pronounced. But she was almost nowhere to be found. But when she got her second chance into round two, like, it was way different. She was a much different player. That's why I'm really excited that she's going to be going into Turkey, where the media coverage is probably like women's volleyball in Turkey is absolutely massive. And you know this by any time there's a CEV thing on YouTube, the Turks take over the chat board, and they love their volleyball. Like, Vakufbank against Canigliano was such a hugely contested thing because of how supportive Turkish volleyball fans are for their teams. So I think her going to Turkey is really like, she is going to be going in with the top teams, and she's going to have some pressure on her, and I really think that she's going to be able to thrive in that position.
Yeah, no, we're going to see that. I think we'll use the same word again, but it's the right thing at the right time for those athletes, and they're mature and they still have to learn, but they have so much to show us. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, I think another thing that I really want to see from this team is developing an identity. And, and developing what does Canadian women's volleyball look like. And I think for so long that it's kind of been a little bit wishy-washy. And we've had so many different coaches who have kind of, maybe just not really had an identity and, hey, we're just going to work with what we work with. Or they're going to try to impose an identity that doesn't really fit with the athletes that we have. And I found that, Tom Black did such a good idea trying to establish and build an identity that is, they play smart volleyball and they execute well and they can also bang away. And I really want to see them establish that with amongst the best teams in the world, because you know what, we're probably not going to be the best ball control team like Japan or Korea. Tactically, we're probably not going to be up there with the Brazils. Physically, we're probably not going to be up there with the Serbias and the USAs and the Turkeys. But I think that mixing all of those things together into a truly Canadian style of volleyball, that's where we're really going to start to see the women's team find the same success that, say, the men's team has, for example.
I love the word you use. Identity is totally right on. I never thought about it, but that's totally correct. We're probably not the best in strategy, tactic, whatever, but all together, the gel that we have and the Canadian that is in us is going to make the team the way it is and the way it's going to be in the next future. And I think you're right. It's the consistency now that we have to do to 2022, 23, 24, Paris, and then 2028, because those athletes may also be there in 2028. So consistency, it's a great time right now. And I'm urging everybody to just watch the VNL that is coming in 5 days, because you'll be surprised of what the Canadian team can do.
Yeah, 100%. I think, to add another word, I want to see them be tenacious. Like, I want to see them go after the ball. I want to see them go after it every single point. Because at the end of the day, as skilled as some of our skilled players are, like Kira, like Alexa, like Bree, we're not going to be the most skilled team. But I think that if we can with the men's team, and I know I don't want to liken them too much to the men's team, but I see a lot of parallels here. And when the men's team kind of adopted that grinder mentality, and we're just going to grind games out, we're going to make things difficult on you. Like the win against Cuba is the perfect example of how they qualified for the Olympics, going down 2-0 and then coming back and grinding out
Yes.
and holding true to what their strategy was. I really think that if the women's team can take on that tenacious attitude, that they're going to really find success. And do you know why I think that we're going to have that ability to take on that tenacious attitude? It comes down to two people. It comes down to the team captain, Jen Cross, who tenacious may as well be her middle name. And she is a
Yes.
fighter. If you knew the things that Jen Cross has gone through over the past few years in her personal life, the fact that she's still on the national team is absolutely incredible to me. Like even myself and talking to her, and Jen and I were the same age. We go back to being friends from when we were teenagers, and I was like, even for me, it was just been like, Jen, maybe it's a time to maybe not retire is the right thing, but like take a step back. But I think that she is going to be able to lead this team in a tenacious way, in ways that we've never seen before. And then the other athlete is another one that we've talked about quite a bit, is Bree King, because we've likened the two of them together, and I think that she's another one that is just gonna go after it. And I think that between Bree being the starting setter, and she's gonna be touching every other ball, every second ball, and Jen being the team captain, that like there's gonna be a certain type of tenacity that's just immediately expected from this team, and it's something that I'm very excited about.
No, you're right on. Grinder, tenacious, and those two athletes. That's what we were saying at the beginning, right? I was telling you, I see how they flip from being one of the most lovable person off the court, person who are going to care about you, to being this tenacious competitor on the floor. Those two, Jen and Bree, um, this is right. They will actually bring the team with us to fight every ball, no matter what the score is. And that's where you learn, and that's where you actually win game.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Like, who I Bree reminds me a lot is Voloj,
Mm,
the setter for Conigliano and the Polish national team setter. Um,
yeah.
Same type of like cheery attitude, but is just like a consummate competitor. And I really think that, as I said, I think Bree has the ability to establish herself as a top 10 setter in the world in this tournament, and maybe even more than that. When you're looking at like Voloj, Maja Obladonovic from Serbia.
For Serbia, yeah.
Um, I mean, I guess the American setters is Jordan Poulter, who set for Busto and Alexa Gray, and then the other one is Lauren Carlini. But other than that, like I'm trying to think of other setters that are better than Bree King, and I can't really think. I mean, I'm sure that maybe once I start watching a little bit more, but still, like I think she really has the opportunity to establish herself as one of the best setters in the world, and realistically, I think that's 100% going to have a trickle down effect to the women's national team as well.
Yeah, and remember, as a setter, it's not just putting the ball in the right place, consistency at that level, right? It's IQ, it's mental, it's grit, and it's all that makes like a great setter, which is bringing the team up, setting the right person at the right time, and learning. And she has all the capabilities there, and she's great. So yes, we are going to see that. That's another prediction. She'll become one of the best setter of the tournament.
Another thing that excites me about Bree is that she showed her ability to set to the athlete. So
Mhm.
she can set in a system, but she can also change her sets up given who she's setting with. And we saw that over the course of the Athletes Unlimited League, where she was doesn't matter if she was with Betty De La Cruz, Jordan
Mhm.
Larson, Sheila, Leah Edmonds, whoever she was with, they were finding success because she was finding the ways to set them. And especially in a situation like this, where as good as China and Kier Van Rijk are, you set those balls in two very different ways. And I really think that Bree King is going to be able to take that into into account, and just set some absolute butter for this team.
Yeah, you could see that in AU Pro. You're right. In the first, always the first day or the first game that she's got with a new team, there may have been some ball and that failed. But that's the way. That's the way it is. But the third days, she was spot on. She was right there, and that's why she's got all these points. So imagine now, because she's been playing with those athletes for years and years and years, she knows them by heart. Right? And even the new one that are coming, she's going to, after a couple of days, she's going to say, "That's the way it goes. That's what I'm going to run." So yeah,
This
very, very interesting.
this is why I think Hillary Howe might have the best opportunity to be P2 for Canada, just because of her relationship with Bree King.
Hmm.
And I mean, I think from what I've been seeing from like the clips that they've been posting on Instagram from the red white matches, that's been the case, that she's been playing opposite. Hillary Howe's been playing opposite of Alexa Gray, but you know, like those are two best friends. Like they were rooming together during the training camp in Italy. You know, we've both discussed, and there's nothing confirmed yet, but apparently there's some rumors that they might actually be joining forces
Yeah,
in France next year. So
yeah, that's what I heard.
very excited to see if that's the case. But you know what? I think that relationship between Bree and Hillary that's already established and has been set in stone through years of playing for the Trinity Western Spartans, I really think that is going to just pay dividends for them moving forward in and with the national team.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And yeah, and next year if they play together, it's going to be even better. I mean, think about it, right? Autumn is going to get better. Hillary is getting better day after day. Bree and Autumn are connected. Bree and Hillary are connecting. Bree and Alexa are connecting. And we got all these, Andrea is there, and all these athletes are also on the left side. Carolyn is there. Parker, she's going to connect with that. The first couple games are going to be great. The last games are going to be phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
on the VNL.
Looking at that last string of games, we talked about how Italy, they're ranked number 4 right now, but they're bringing split rosters, so it's going to be a bit of a mix and match. So I think that's absolutely an opportunity to win. Thailand, their original team that they had sent, the majority of the team caught COVID, so they've kind of stitched it. Like they tried to pull out of the tournament altogether, and the FIVB was like, you can't. It's too close. So they've stitched together a team. Unfortunately, I think Thailand is probably on the docket to be last, and then Belgium is another team that I definitely think with it that we can beat. But that last 3 games, like I wouldn't be surprised if to see us go 3-0,
Oh
and
yeah.
especially after all of the lessons that we've learned, like I absolutely think that we can go 3-0 in the last 3 games, and if we do that, I don't care if we lose the previous 12 games. If we go 3-0 in that last weekend, I'm 100%, or last weekend, last from the 18th, 19th, 20th, I'm 100% calling this VNL a success for the women's national team. Right? Even if we lose the other 12 games, I absolutely think if we can go 3-0 in that last weekend, that this is an absolute hands down success for the women's national team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, these are some. I'm pretty sure we're going to get some set. And you know what? I'm pretty sure we're going to win. I'm still say we're going to beat Dominican Republic. Mark that down.
Okay,
Uh,
absolutely. So what do you think our record is going to be? 15 matches.
uh, you know what? 15 matches. I think we can win. I think Belgium, Poland, Dominican Republic. I think we could win that. And then I think we can take South Korea because we want revenge. And probably Italy if they got a split team. Yeah, we should have five good victories. And then what I'm very interested is how we're going to compete with a team like Brazil, China, and USA. Right? A loss 3-2 for me is a victory.
100%.
Right?
Absolutely. If we can get a point out of those matches,
Oh yeah, yeah.
massive win for sure. I'm going to go one better. I'm going to go 6-9.
Okay, okay.
I think we're going to go 6-9. And I think that we are really going to surprise some teams. I don't think that we're on anyone's radar right now about being a top team, and I really think that we are going to surprise some teams by how young and exuberant this team is going to be. I really think that, as I said, I think we're going to be tenacious. I think that we are going to have firepower, that if we can pass the ball, and as you said, if we can keep the ball alive in transition, that will make
Yep.
some of the biggest differences. And you know why I think that we're going to be able to keep the ball alive in transition is the quality of our blocking in the middle. Right? We talked about how Maglio, we talked about how Cross, how quickly they can get back and forth. And I think that a lot of times we're going to be able to establish a strong block and good defense around it. And that's really going to allow us to make games difficult for teams. If we're not going to win a game, I really want to see us make life really difficult against Brazil, USA, Turkey, China. Those big teams, Serbia as well, of course, to make them remember that like playing Canada, it's no walk in the park. Right, that was one of the first things that the men's team did, and I mean, like, hey, if we look back to the men's team, and there actually yesterday was the 10-year, no, 9-year anniversary of when Canada beat Brazil 3-2
Oh yes,
here in Toronto back in
that's true.
back in 2012 in the World League, and that was kind of like the opening of like, hey guys, like Canada's here to play. We beat Serbia at the 2010 World Championships, but didn't move on from pool. Beat Brazil, and then I mean in 2012, and then the rest is history. And we've beat everyone else since then. So you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if early on we beat one of the big teams too.
That's interesting. So you're saying that we're going to beat Brazil and we're going to beat Serbia?
Whoa, whoa,
Ah,
whoa, whoa, whoa! I was saying
that's what
what
I heard
one
you.
of those teams. I mean, hey, absolutely. Like, I'm gonna go into those matches thinking that we can win, but
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know what? Like at the end of the day, I just want to see them make life difficult on teams. Although, like, let's be honest, we're talking about in less than a month, they're going to be playing 15
Hmm.
matches.
Yes.
It's something is going to happen along the way. There's going to be an ugly match or two, and I just hope that it's earlier rather than later.
Yeah, and who knows with the COVID what's happening? Who knows, he's going to be tired and everything. So you're right. We'll take one game at a time, um, but with a squad that is just phenomenal. I think it's a great squad surrounded by a great staff with a great strategy and great tactic. And I wish them the best. That's going to be very interesting VNL. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
I think it's going to be really exciting, guys. If you want to check out the VNL, if you want to watch all of the matches, you can go head over to Volleyball World TV. Unfortunately, the sale is done, so now it's back. It's only $20
Hmm.
for the month for 8 matches a day for 30 days. That's a damn good price. The
Yes.
best men's and women's volleyball, like that is. I'm going to be glued to my screen the entire time. But if you're just interested in the Canadian matches, CBCSports.ca will be live streaming all of the Canadian matches for free. So if you just want to watch Team Canada, you don't need to pay a dime. You can just watch it all on CBC Sports. Of course, we'll be featuring the streams right here on volleyballsource.ca. You can check those out. But you know what? It's going to be a great month of volleyball. And as we've both said before, I cannot be more excited for this women's national team and the potential that they have heading into their first ever Volleyball Nations League.
Yeah, I hope my boss is not listening because I may be sick a couple of days during the next month. But I'm starting at 4 a.m. 4 a.m. every day. I'm going to probably watch a game and
Luck,
then watch again.
luckily for the women's team, there's no 4 a.m. games. The earliest
Oof.
games is the 7 a.m.ers against Germany, Japan, and Netherlands. Other than that, mostly morning games, a few in the afternoon, which is opposite from the men. The men are kind of all over the place. They've got some 4 a.m. games. They've got some 1:30 p.m. or some 3 p.m. games as well too. But it's crazy having the men and the women because it's literally every single day you've got a match. Like as we see here from the schedule, there's literally not a day off on the schedule that we're going to be missing, and that's honestly amazing for volleyball lovers like us.
Yeah, volleyball Canada every day. I love it.
Yeah,
Like, but best can happen.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Chris, is there anything that we missed? I know you are a stats guru.
Ah,
When actually, just a quick story about Chris. When we were watching the NCAA finals this year, big shout out to Halton Hurricanes who were doing a Twitch stream for it. Chris wasn't watching the match; he was just watching the stats, and yet was coming into the chat board with some crazy insight. Like I didn't know that. Like it seemed like you were watching the match. I didn't know until like halfway through that you were just watching the stats. So you are a stats guru, and we thank you for that.
yeah, yeah. Data does a lot of stuff, and you can analyze a game post, which is easy, right? It's easy to analyze and see what was wrong, what was not wrong. Predicting is harder. So in terms of data, it's hard right now because the teams are so different and they haven't played to each other. So we can give you some stat about the team from Dominican Republic 2 years ago or the Canadian team from 2 years ago, but this is brand new. The stat people and the data people, and I know them, are just they don't know right now because they haven't seen the team play for month and month because of COVID. So the first game is going to be a surprise from everybody, and then it's going to be a lot of sleepless night because the way they do is they get the data and they don't sleep until the next day where they give the game plan, and then they don't sleep again because they're still studying the new game. So you can talk about the athlete, but I can tell you there are some people that are not going to sleep for 30 days. They're the stat people, but that's the way it is. And we'll get the data, we'll get better, we'll understand what's happening. And some of the team will need those data because they're going to the Olympic Games. So they're going to, we're playing, what is it after the VNL? We're playing in South America, the Canadian team. Remind me, we're playing Brazil again.
Are we for
I
the
don't know. For the
women's?
women?
I'm not. I'm not
I
sure.
don't know.
You may know better than
No,
I.
no.
But yeah, I actually no. I think you're right. I think that there's going to be another another training camp.
North Sea, yeah.
There's definitely Norsika championships.
Right. Sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Norsika championships are going to be happening in the fall. I forget where, but that's the North American tournament. And you know what? I think that that's the more important tournament for this team. You know, I think that we use VNL to learn, and then we go and kick ass at Norsika championships and take a spot on the podium, which is something that we've had a hard time doing in past years.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's a good plan. A good plan for that.
You know, especially since like it's the only Norsika teams is USA, Dominican Republic, and us. Like Puerto Rico isn't here, Mexico isn't here, Cuba isn't here, and I really think that this is our opportunity to, in the same way that the past decade was the opportunity for the men's national team to have a rise. I really truly believe that this next decade is the time for Canadian women's volleyball to have a rise, because you know what, like, and I mean, you know it. The skill level that we've seen at the club level and at the post-secondary level, whether it's U Sports or NCAA, has been absolutely incredible. And the growth of the game, especially here in Ontario, has been absolutely massive. And you know what, I can't say enough about some of what the clubs have been doing here in Canada. And I really truly think that we're going to start to see the buy-in with the women's national team. You know, for so long, we just had athletes who would come and they would have great seasons and great careers post-secondary and then just kind of float away. But now I really think that the women's national team is going to start creating that identity that athletes are going to start determining earlier, being like, I want to go play for the women's national team. And I really, really hope and really think that this VNL is going to be the catalyst for that, because we've never had the opportunity to watch this much women's volleyball before in Canada. This is going to be the first time in forever. Mm-hmm. And not only are they going to be able to watch quality volleyball, but they're going to be watching quality volleyball against the best teams, right? Imagine if we managed to score a win against like Turkey, and then Turkey goes on to do great at the Olympics. Every single fan who watched that game will remember when Turkey's doing great at the Olympics that, like, hey, we beat that team. We can beat those teams. We are just as good as the top teams. And that is what is one of the things I'm most excited for about this VNL.
Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned a couple of things that people should be proud about, right? I mean, I got two nationalities, but I'm really I love the way Canada works in terms of pipeline and bringing the athlete to be the best. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but a couple of years ago, we were always complaining that our athletes were not playing abroad, right? They were staying in Canada. And now look at that. Not only they're playing abroad, but people want them, right? And they're winning. So something is right here in Canada. Something is right to actually bring the best to the athlete.
We're gonna open this real quick just to take a look here. Almost 40 athletes, and I think that may have been more because I definitely missed out on a few athletes, but I think about 40 female athletes were playing professionally this year, which is the most ever, and is absolutely incredible. You know, there's been years recently where there was maybe a dozen, maybe 15, and not athletes playing in top leagues like Italy and Poland and Turkey like there was this year. So the growth of Canadian women's volleyball has been absolutely massive, and I really think that it's just we're gonna start seeing that quality at the national team level again. Like, even like if you look at for example, where is she here? Kelsey Veltman. Kelsey Veltman is an athlete who turned down the national team, and she led the women's Bundesliga in blocks playing for Potsdam. Or Danielle Brisebois, who's another athlete who turned down the national team, or she actually retired from the national team a while ago. She was the top scorer in the German Bundesliga playing for Vilsbiburg. So we're starting to see that we've got athletes who are very, very good playing professionally, both on the national team and off, and that's when you start to see that hallmark of, hey, this is a very, very good good program, and Canadian volleyball is growing, and that's really why I'm very excited about all of this.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. That's and between you and me, I love watching women volleyball. I love watching men volleyball, but it's so fast. But women volleyball, you got these crazy rallies, you got this crazy defense, you got this strategic. Um, I we're talking about the NCAA. That the final there was a unbelievable game. The final of the CV between Vakiv Bang and Konyata was also another
I
fantastic.
honestly I preferred the women's final over the men's final. It was just
Yeah.
it was so loaded. It was back and forth, and it was two very good teams with exciting offenses. And you know what? Like at a certain point in the men's final, like Zach just started running, and it was
Yes.
fantastic to watch. And I
Oh yeah.
loved. I was cheering for Zach the entire time, but man, just watching how much it mattered to to the women. For me, it's realistically, when are we going to be getting a real pro league? Nothing against Athletes Unlimited. I loved what they
Hmm.
did, but I don't think that has a long term. And I know they're going to disagree with me, but this is my own opinion. I don't think that has a long term place. But realistically, for me, women's volleyball is the most undervalued sport in North America. And once we start valuing it as much as other sports, like it's only going to get better from here, right? Like some money bags out there is eventually going to see how many women are playing the sport of volleyball in both Canada and the U.S. and how much quality is coming from Canada, the U.S., Mexico, Puerto Rico, all of that stuff. And to me, if there's not a real professional league established in North America in the next 10 years, like there's a millionaire out there who is missing out on money. Like someone needs to step in and start a real league and just float them the money for 10 years like we did the MLS.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Like there is so much potential here, and there's so much untapped potential that the sky is the limit realistically for women's volleyball in North America. And I really hope that the women playing in this VNL and having as much exposure as they are and having the team that they do, that it's only a catalyst for good things to come for Canadian women's volleyball.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And the other thing I wanted to add is I'm going to urge people to go and see the sport live, the women volleyball, because the speed is nothing that you see on TV, right? You can see on TV and it's great, but seeing it live, it not only it's speed. And I remember myself just scouting stuff. So you're behind the court and you're scouting, and it's so fast and so many rallies. I think at one point we had 36 rallies that were going over the net. So I'm urging people to just see that, because this is nothing like on TV. The other thing that I realized is I was lucky then again to be in Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico was playing the Dominican Republic, and that's the first time I was watching a game with about 5 to 6 thousand people in the arena. And I can tell you, the scout, because they were typing so hard and making so much noise, our laptop was jumping on top of our knees because the whole arena was moving and we couldn't actually scout. So that's another thing that I think if we manage to get that, and if we manage to get this big area with 5,000, this is one of the most phenomenal sport to see live.
Absolutely. Both women's and men's volleyball is phenomenal, but I definitely urge you.
Yes.
It's really too bad. I will close it out with this one thought, these two thoughts. First of all, I think that it's absolutely a perfect scenario for the women's national team to have the bubble this year, because you're taking away all those variables of travel. You're taking away
Hmm.
all those variables of because before you were always traveling with 14, now you're traveling with 18, right?
Hmm.
It's all going to be in one place. It's very much like a club or post-secondary scenario where you're all staying together and you have that chance, as opposed to traveling, maybe playing at home, and there's all of these other distractions. But this, you just get to tune everything out, tune everyone out, and focus for 1 month, focus on the team. However, there's the flip side of that, because Canada isn't going to get to see this team play in person, and I think that's a shame, because I think that this is a very, very talented team and a very exciting team. But you know what? We can leave that for next year once the
Yeah.
country is finally open, and just let them, you know, almost like brew and ferment, you know. In the
Yes.
bubble, just like a good beer or a nice wine, it needs some time to sit in the bottle and ferment a little bit. That's really what I want to see from this women's national team throughout the tournament.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm still holding on my tickets for the VNL when it comes here in 2022. I don't care where it is, if it's in Ottawa, Calgary, or or BC, I'm just going.
Let's
That's
do it.
it.
Let's do it. I'll be there with you. We'll get it.
Excellent.
We'll get an Airbnb together.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
I'll cook.
Okay, great. I mean, I'm a pretty good cook too, but you seem very confident, and you're French too, so you know, and not Quebecois French. No, I'm
Yeah.
not going to say real French. France French.
Yeah, nobody's perfect. Sorry.
Yeah. All right, Chris. Well, I can't thank you enough and coming and bringing your
Welcome.
expertise to this podcast. I know it. We've been trying to get together and do this for a while. I thank you for your patience. I'm in the process of moving. As if you're a fan of the show, you'll notice that I'm in a bit of a different room this time, which is now pretty much going to be my office, which I'm very excited about. It's going to be nicer in the future, I promise. We're going to put some stuff up on the walls. But Chris, really appreciate your patience and coming and joining on. And we're probably going to have to do this again throughout, maybe once or twice throughout the VNL, just to kind of update everyone and on how things are going throughout the competition.
Absolutely. And I'll get you some data and some video clip. We can look at that if you want, if that interests you.
That sounds absolutely perfect. Well, guys, once again, make sure to check out the Volleyball Nations League. It kicks off in 5 days, May 25th, Canada against Brazil. It's going to be a banger. And yeah, we will see you next time. Chris, thank you so much, man.